Hello, I'm Richard Chambers, Senior Advisor, Risk and Audit at Audit Board, and welcome to another in my continuing series, Agents of Change. I'm joined today here in London by Andy Kovacs, the Corporate Learning Director and co-founder of ELC Consultants, which is based here. In his role, he specializes in designing and delivering bespoke training, consulting, and executive coaching solutions. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, Andy, we were talking a little earlier. You've had the chance to read Agents of Change. I think you might have refreshed it a little bit, getting ready for our conversation today. Yes. You know, as you know, in Agents of Change, I make the case that internal auditors have to embrace change and seek to drive value in their organizations. It's no longer just adequate for us to be the assurance guys or the assurance ladies. We have to be out there helping the organization succeed, not just protect the value, but to help to grow it. What's your view on internal auditors as agents of change in organizations?
Yeah, I think it's not just about adequacy. I would say the decision now is evolve or become extinct. I think it's really that significant. And I think when you look back to this, there's several. The book, first of all, I would recommend everybody reads Agents of Change, because to me, all of your books are wonderful, but that's the paradigm shifting book. It's like Cialdini's Influence, it's like Purple Cows by Seth Godin, it's like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, but for the audit space. And it's genuinely an exhilarating read.
Well, thank you.
And I think it's exactly that point. So traditionally, you know, you take it back to 4,000 years, to ancient Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, where we had the clay tablets, documenting transactions, taxation payments, so that we could check. Right. You know, that whole idea of protecting values there, then the railroads, and now we're in this new era. Right. So I think if, as an internal auditor, this whole concept of creating value, it shocks some people, it disturbs some people, but ultimately that's where we all have to be in our organizations, I think. So why do I believe this? I think in the past, when you look at those railroad stories, when you look at the older corporations, the big fear was that if we're not protecting value, we can lose the corporation. Great. Right? But now, the C-suite fear, the investor fear, the shareholder fear is different. If we're not creating the right value, we're going to lose the company. Right. So I think if you're not there's no passengers on this journey. You're either a part of that or you're not. We're not sort of sitting there on the tightrope looking up at the C-suite thinking, oh, the prevailing winds might knock them off here. The whole organization is on the tightrope now. Right. So if you're not creating value, you could find yourself being the head of audit in the next Kodak or the next BlackBerry or, you know, the next Toys R Us or something like this, right?
Absolutely. You make a great point. Andy, you mentioned the stone tablet era.
Yes.
I joined internal audit a long time ago. We didn't have stone tablets, but we also didn't have computers. In fact, I think the most sophisticated technology in my office when I became a young internal auditor was a calculator.
Right.
And yes. Here we are. You know, now we have entered what many think is an absolutely transformational era of artificial intelligence. So, internal audit and AI. I hear this all the time. I get asked about it. You know, talk about agents of change, right? Yes. AI has so much potential, and there are those who openly question: is AI capable of doing what we do? And my theory is, and then I want to hear your take, is that I think AI is going to be very capable of providing assurance. I think it's whether we have or are willing to move beyond assurance. That's the key question.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if you're stuck in the past with a sort of rear view mirror hindsight audit, protect value, you're going to be in trouble with AI, I think.
Yeah.
So you need to evolve beyond this. It's so exciting. It's so fascinating, the capability it gives us. The one thing I'd say about AI and the adaptation of any technology, sometimes you see two things in the audit space. Some people are skeptical about it. Some people are overly enthusiastic, right? So I think when you're talking about adding technology, I would say don't put the cart before the horse. So sometimes I talk to people about AI and they say, we need to use AI. And I say, okay, why? And they say, because everybody is, you know. And it's like, all right, what are you going to use it for? Well, everything. What can we use it for? Okay, here's the thing. What is the biggest pain point and problem which is stopping you from achieving your objective? And how can AI or any technology facilitate that, right? So I think one example I would give of this, I talk a lot about the zero-page audit report, because now with our clients, 85 to 100% are reading audit reports.
That's updating. That's upstaging David Hill by one page.
Yeah.
David's been promoting the one page. You're going to the zero.
The
page.
zero page, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I agree with everything that David says. So the point about the page is this: there is no page anymore, right? Page in the sense of the Latin pagine, you know, the papyrus, the printed paper, right? 85 to 100% are reading from the screen.
Right.
So what does that mean? If you write your audit report in the same way that you've always done, the research shows there's a 20% recall gap. You've got to change the way you write. The second point is this. With the pandemic, we've got all this capability. The same device that you use to write that audit report, you can also make video, record audio, create graphics. So we have visual learners, auditory learners, reader, writer, and kinesthetic learners.
Right.
So the zero-page audit report is, if it suits your organization and the culture, make a video. So what do we see then? People start to use these AI avatars to do the talking. And it's like, why are you doing that? Your guys, your audit team, you chose those people. They're your guys. You need to showcase them. They need to be talking to the camera. They need to be the ones who you present to the board, the AC. So I think AI is so exciting, but we need to use it to complement our journey as agents of change.
Right. Good points. You know, considering all the change, all the dynamic change that we've seen over these last 4 years, what should internal auditors be doing to help their organizations better position for the future?
Yeah, I think purpose first. After this, ultimately for me, the agent of change piece, the core point is relationship. So it's really about building those relationships with stakeholders. Nobody's ever said, you know what changed my life? When I was younger, there was this fantastic risk assessment that was done on my behalf, right? Nobody says this, right?
Right.
But we can all talk about the inspirational teacher or community leader or friend or relative or neighbor. So we need to increase our relationship quotient. We need to increase our ability to build relationships with stakeholders. And I think it's those skills that we need to harvest as an internal auditor. Sometimes you make a fantastic point in the book where, I don't know how you put it, is like the independence and objectivity becomes a cloak that we wrap ourselves in, and independence doesn't mean isolation.
Right.
This is exactly right. If I were the CEO, I'd want my auditors to be absolutely focused on that purpose. So what do we mean? You know, being indispensable to risk management, control, governance, the go-to expert for helping the business to protect value, to create value. That's first. Understanding exactly the business objectives, the critical objectives, being a part of that. Then I want to see what they're doing.
Right.
You know, when they're in the lunch queue, are they talking to people? Do the key stakeholders know who they are? Do they know who the key stakeholders are? When they come and present a finding to me, I'd check their emotional quotient. So I'd say, oh, wow, that's high risk, that's worrying. How did the business feel about that? When they answer, I'd say, how did you feel telling them? Because I think, how do you get it? Do you see what's going on, or do you really perceive what's going on?
Good points. Absolutely, absolutely good points. And you talk about just, you know, how do you manage the talent these days? The one thing that I hear chief audit executives saying is keeping them awake at night is the talent.
Yes.
It's how do I recruit and retain the talent that's going to help us as an organization meet tomorrow's challenges? What advice do you give to chief audit executives about some kind of talent recruitment strategy?
Yeah, I'd say think back first of all to yourself when you were younger. What did you want at the start of your career? When I was younger, I guess it's quite common. We all think about I used to think about the future. What can it be? Where can the journey go? Does it excite me or not? So I think what does a young person want? They want a platform from which they can showcase their skills and ability. They want to learn, they want to grow, they want to network, they want to succeed. Right. So offer them those things. For example, video audit reporting. You're the guy that did the audit. You know that business area, you know what's going on better than anyone. So you should be the person to star in the video. That video will then be shown to the board, to the AC, to the senior stakeholders. It's a platform for you. I would also really encourage any younger auditors or any audit teams to get involved with physical events. There's loads of events, IIA events, audit board events like today, social media. There's a fantastic internal audit community on LinkedIn. It's a really warm and welcoming community. Right. It's a lot of fun. Get involved. I would encourage you to get your younger talents to get involved with this. Right. Use some humor. Tell your story. Make some little videos. Share your expertise and your experiences. Share your learning journey. Because then when others see that, they say, I want to work in that place. Right. I want to be like that guy. That becomes a magnet for the talent as well. The final thing I'd say on this, internal audit teams always look at how we can sort of buy training, consultancy, this type of thing. But the most underexploited resource is the support and talent and experience in your own team. So you've got those experienced auditors. Sometimes they complain and say, when we get a new guy, it takes a long time for them to learn. I have to explain and show them what to do. We have to shadow them a lot. And it's like, so do you do that fresh every time? Yes, we do it fresh every time. Record it. Mm-hmm. Go on to Zoom, have a chat with another experienced colleague of yours. That webinar, when recorded, is a learning resource. Rip out the audio, make a podcast. You've got so many opportunities like this, right? So to me, it's really about platforms and learning, I would say.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, when we talk in the book about the what does it take, what skills, what attributes to be an agent of change, we talk about that you've got to have business acumen. You've got to be a relationship builder. You've got to be strategic in your thinking, and you got to be innovative. Are there other things that come to mind for you about the transformational internal auditors you've seen, those who are change agents?
They're good with emotion. They're good with emotion. And I think you're one of the leading exponents of that, I can say. So I remember the first time we met in Bristol at a Chartered Institute of Internal Auditors event. So I was there, it was the free time, there was a group of people around, and you entered. And some of the younger guys, you know, they got a little bit nervous to meet you. You know, it's Richard Chambers, he's the, the legend of the game. They got a little bit nervous, and you came and joined us. And you could sense this, you could see this. So what did you do right away? You cracked a joke. And everybody laughed. And it was that cathartic moment. The pressure went, the emotional pressure dropped down, and suddenly everything started to flow. The conversation started to flow, people with each other, people with you. The conversation started to flow. And it's understand that when there's emotional tension, it needs a release. It needs some catharsis. You know, the ancient Greeks, their greatest art form was theater. So they had comedy and tragedy, because fundamentally laughing and crying are the ways that we can release that emotional tension. Right. So for me, I don't turn up on LinkedIn each day to make people cry when I'm talking.
Well, your LinkedIn presence is it's very different. It's not
Absolutely.
Traditional, and it draws a lot of attention. So I commend you on that. Thank
you very much. Yeah.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining me today. I know, here it is in rainy London, if that's not being redundant. It is great to see you. It's great to catch up.
Pleasure to see you too.
And thank you for your insights on what it takes to be a trusted advisor.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us on another in my continuing series, Agents of Change.